Football show?
Yeah.
Yesterday. What's the name of it?
Quelli del calcio.
I said the presenter looks like a little bit like Salvador Dali.
Ah.
You know, with the mustache.
Without mustache.
Yeah.
Nicola Savino.
Yeah, Nicola Savino. A young Dali,
Yes.
no?
Yes.
Young,
Youngish.
Maybe young.
my age.
No, it's not
Yeah.
so young. Yeah.
La mia età.
He looks like young, but it's not so young.
Senti, posso cominciare io con una domanda?
Sì, io direi andiamo a giro.
Ah.
Così.
No, ma inizia lui.
Vai tranquillo.
Mi è molto piaciuto il suo disco. Ascoltando quello precedente.
Devo tradurre?
Sì, mi fai un favore,
Ok.
fai un favore. Ascoltando il suo disco ho notato una grande differenza da quello precedente, che era vario. Invece mi sembra che qui abbia proprio centrato un mondo sonoro. Molto preciso, e volevo sapere come ha lavorato, se era già nella sua intenzione quando ha scritto i pezzi o se è una cosa che è nata in fase di arrangiamento, perché mi è piaciuto davvero tanto.
Okay, so you said that your album is really good,
Thank you.
and it seems different from the very first one. You would like to understand how you work on it, which are the differences between the first one and this one. Specifically music point of view, so writing and the sound, etc.
Perché è proprio centrato, è proprio un disco preciso questo.
He said that differently from the first one, these have a specific road.
Direction.
You have,
Yeah,
a specific
that's true.
direction.
Sound.
So more
Yeah.
focus on.
Yeah, it's true. This is, I've had many ups and downs in my career, and this was the first time that I had the resources and the capability to put the same team together for an entire album. Because before, I could get a good producer for 2 or 3 songs, and then he'd get busy, I'd have to work with someone else, you know? This time, I had some great producers, Tim Brown and Roy Kerr, who did the London Grammar album, which was one of my favourite albums. And they helped me over the course of 3 or 4 months to do the entire album, you know? And also it was mixed by the same guy in LA, Andrew Dawson. And really, when I looked at my career, the thing I felt that was missing was an album that had the continuity and that had a togetherness about it. And that's something that I really wanted to achieve, and I feel like this is the first time that I've done that. And I was also thinking of little things that would connect the songs together. And the one thing we found was using the steel pan, the instrument from the Caribbean, was something that could help connect it. Sometimes we used different effects, or we used guitar pedals with the steel pan, so sometimes you don't know what the instrument is, but it gave the album an atmosphere. You know? The other thing that I did very differently on this album was, for the first half, I didn't concentrate on production at all, only songwriting. So I worked with some amazing songwriters, and we said, okay, the lyrics, the melody, the vocals, 1 or 2 instruments, and then stop. You know, leave the production for right at the end. Because I think sometimes through the 2 years of making an album, the production from the beginning of the album already sounds old. Mm-hmm. You know, by the time, especially nowadays with the speed everything moves. So I just focused, okay, get the emotion, get the lyrics and the melody, and then wait till the end for the production. So yeah, I think that's why. It's a good question, because that's something that I really try to do.
Okay.
Io ho capito, io sì,
Avete capito tutto?
è a chiedere che faccio fatica.
Okay, so no, he understood. He has different difficulties in asking, but
Yeah,
he
but the English
understood.
understood.
Yeah.
Okay, great, cool. I'll do it in Italian if you want.
Why not? Il prossimo.
Yeah.
Vado io?
Sì.
Do you think that the use of this steel drum could represent now and maybe in the future one of your main characteristics of differentiation, maybe from other artists?
Definitely. I think it's something that I do uniquely. I grew up in the Caribbean. I went there when I was 9 years old and started playing the steel pan when I was 10 or 11. And the steel pan for me represents my discovery of music. And I was playing in bands on the weekend, and so it symbolises for me trying to hold on to my Caribbean roots. I'm very English now. I've lived away from England 14 years, you know, and so my accent is very London and everything. But a part of me, I think, really wants to hold on to my roots, and I think in the music business it's important that you have that. It's been a difficult challenge trying to record the steel drum in modern music, because you don't want it to sound like Caribbean holiday, come to Barbados music, you know. It has to have an integrity and an authenticity about it, so that's always the challenge. Maybe for the next album I would like to experiment more, because now I can sing and play it at the same time, so I'd like to experiment more with you know, pushing that side of things, because you're right, nowadays it's important to have something that's unique to you as an artist.
It's true.
Thank you.
Vai, vai.
How do you feel most in the music genre? More reggae, more Caribbean, more soul, more pop? Because the new album was a completely different approach to the other ones, and I think the ground or the base for the music was more on the guitar and more on the piano, maybe.
Yeah.
Which is my opinion. I don't know how you define it.
For sure.
How do you feel now with the genre now? Is it more the pop, or are you going to one direction, or are you trying to see more, or to put more into your music?
Yeah, it's interesting. My lifestyle has changed so much from when I first came to Milan with Matafix. Mm-hmm. It was much more of a street living, much more. I just moved back from the Caribbean, rapping. The hip-hop stuff, the reggae stuff came much more naturally, because that was more of the lifestyle that I was living. Broke, no money in London, those lyrics are much more inspired by that lifestyle. Now, of course, I enjoy sitting at a nice piano, you know, with a nice grappa in the evening. It's a slightly different lifestyle, but the emotion and being able to pull the difficult things that I've gone through in my life into that music is the same, you know, and also I still have the same ideology in that I believe that I have to write songs that are truthful to me, otherwise I can't sing them in a convincing way, you know. So that's something that I think has changed. My voice has also developed in a different way now. The songs that I'm singing now, there's no way I could have sung them at the beginning of my career. And I started singing very late in my life, so I'm now going through like a development that I guess a lot of singers go through in their early 20s. So I think all of those things push me towards that. The other thing is, I grew up with hip-hop music, but the records and the albums that stay with me are proper songs, you know, soulful, well-written songs, you know, James Taylor, Sam Cooke, Carole King. Any of the Motown stuff, you know, even the Massive Attack records like Protection that stay with me. Tracy Thorn from Everything But a Girl wrote really well, classically well-written soul songs. And those are the songs that have stayed with me for the longest. So I think subconsciously my own artistry pushes me that way, you know. And there's definitely an angel and a devil in me, having a fight constantly, trying to walk the line between pop melodies, which I do quite naturally, but also trying to keep things as credible as possible. But also the fact that I do like radio hits. I like being able to bring my music to as many people as possible. I'm a little bit ambitious in that way. So there's a constant battle, and sometimes those days are difficult, especially when I'm recording an album.
So we can say that you have done a step further in between genres.
Genres, yeah.
So it's not a problem of genres, but it's just a problem of words, lyrics, and your mood, trying to find the right balance through pop, soul, so
for sure.
Your own music.
Yeah, for sure. And I think maybe in the past I've been guilty of trying to do too much. Trying to go, okay, yeah, I grew up in London and the Caribbean, and I love reggae music, and I love African music, and and then you try and put it all into one thing, and it's like, okay, maybe
too much.
Yeah, it's too much. Just try and because I do think at the end of the day, that what people remember is a melody and a lyric, you know, and obviously, you know, after that you can sort of get into the production. So so yeah, I think my career has been about trying to put all of my influences of my life into one thing. Sometimes I didn't get it right. I didn't get it right. You know?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's been said about your album that it gets a sentimental turn, like it's more emotional than the past ones. Is there anything going on with your personal life you think it's affecting your way to write music, to write lyrics or such?
Yeah, there was lots of things that happened on this album. You know, I sort of, like many people, my mid to late 20s was a very difficult period. My band Matafix split up. We were dropped from our previous label, EMI, and we got caught up in that. And you know, there's some relationship stuff that happened that obviously were very necessary, gave me some good life experiences. I learned more from those difficult times than I have from success, and I think that I'm at my strongest in my songwriting when I'm writing a positive song, but it comes from a place of having experienced something that's not that positive, you know? And I think that's something that people connect to a lot. Obviously with this album, I became a father last year. My little boy is now 1. That sort of opened up a whole set of emotions for me, and there isn't a song that's just about him on the album, but there's lots of little lyrics and little moments of realization that come from loving something more than yourself. And I think when you have a child, that's the first time in your life when that happens. And yeah, it's about sort of I guess keeping a little bit of pain, just enough pain to write powerful songs, but not too much so that you stop enjoying life. Yeah, maybe that at the moment is how I feel about it. So yeah.
Ok, non si.
No, lui lavora con noi.
He asked me questions all the time.
Because he looks like Italian.
Yeah, that's a compliment. That's a compliment.
Yes,
È un infiltrato.
Sorry.
Prego.
I read that you define your new album like a modern and classic, and I could add experimental. What do you mean with the modern and classic that are opposite adjectives?
Yeah, well, we felt Electric Soul was a perfect title for the album because mainly the songs were written in a very classic way. We sat at a piano with a dictaphone like this and a lyric book and kept the chord changes very simple and everything. But I definitely wanted to dip into my experience with Matafix and my production experience and albums that I was listening to at the moment, at the time, Frank Ocean, The Weeknd, Drake, they all had this kind of ethereal quality to them, atmospheric quality. And so yeah, that's kind of what I was going for, was trying to get the balance between the two. And yeah, sometimes it's not easy, it takes a lot of time to do that, but the producers that I had, again, Tim Brown and Roy Kerr, they were really instrumental in helping me to strike that balance. And I'm glad you say experimental, because I wanted some of the arrangements to be different. There's a song called Better Than Me where the middle eight or the bridge towards the end of the song kind of goes into this crazy journey, you know, and it has a different melody. So yeah, I wanted to always sort of you know, just when it's getting a little too experimental, bring it back to a sort of, you know, pop structure maybe.
What's classic in your opinion for you?
Classic music? Well, I don't know, like classic artists, like the modern artists, I guess, are ones that are using kind of, yeah, traditional instrumentation, you know, whether it's Adele or Amy Winehouse. Sam Smith, I think what he's doing is quite timeless, you know. Yeah, for some reason, for me, maybe it's because I'm not a traditional or a classic singer in that way. I started singing late. I have a very unique tone to my voice, but I don't have a crazy range where I can do everything. So sometimes I need those little bits of production to keep things interesting, you know. But you can still make a timeless record, and I think that's what I'm still trying to do. And let's see the way you guys write about it will determine that. There's nothing I can do now, you know.
So pay attention.
Yeah.
Why?
Just be nice. Just be nice.
Thank you.
How much has been important for you, both as a person and as a musician, belonging to two different cultures, the British one and the Caribbean one?
Yeah.
And these two sides were in conflict inside of you or not? And how did you fix
Yeah.
the fight?
Yeah, definitely a conflict, for sure. Because I moved to the Caribbean at 9, and it was a fantastic experience. I had a beautiful childhood there, but you are aware that you have come from somewhere else. Moved back to London, didn't feel English when I first came back, but people say, yeah, you are English, so you need to relate to us as an English person. And it's only in the last year or 2 years that I've actually felt a part of London. It's really, really strange. And that I'm now connecting with London. And I guess as you get a little older and you go through difficult experiences, I think you start to question your past, and you start to question how your experiences affect the way you think and feel about things. And even being mixed race, you know, but looking maybe more white than people originally think when they first see me. So I definitely feel like I have a big foot in black culture, you know. But then sometimes that's not necessarily understood when people in maybe the UK would listen to the reggae elements of my music without understanding my story, you know. But I think also my story is maybe could only have come from London, and it's a very, very London story, and it's multiculturalism, you know, and I think that that's something I really appreciate about where I live now. Sure.
I thought you were darker, actually.
Really, you did? Yeah, sorry. The makeup artist was on my head today.
But I wanted to ask you, since you said you are very ambitious, what's, in your opinion, been the pinnacle of your career up to now?
Yeah.
What do you aspire to? I don't know, a duet or playing a venue or something like that?
Yeah. Well, at the moment, today, I'm definitely at, you know, so far at the highest point of my career. You know, I'm signed for the world. We've got US releases planned and everything, and you know, so I'm definitely feeling very, very comfortable with where that is at. And I think my ambition has everything to do with bringing the music that I make to as many people as I can. And I can't really explain to you where that comes from, or why I feel that's important. It's just always been a burning desire, and it's one of the conflicts that I've battled with in my career, is part of me going, this is what I want to do. I would love to play arenas and have worldwide releases and, you know, move towards stadiums and have the music recognised worldwide. But then a part of me on my low confidence days is like, am I good enough as an artist to achieve that? You know, and I think more artists than I thought actually feel like that when you actually speak to them and they translate that. There's this sort of you know, we all have some type of insecurity with that. So, you know, as well as a burning desire to, you know, as you say, bring that out. And I think maybe a lot of it has to do with how I feel on stage. It's a very, very humbling feeling when I'm playing to a lot of people. I feel very fortunate in, you know, some of these songs. It almost felt like I didn't write them sometimes. So the fact that they've come out and become hit songs and have changed my life in many ways, I find quite amazing and mysterious. And then also I have a firm belief that, okay, at the end of the day, my profession, I am a musician, and once I've decided to do that, I sort of need to do that to the best of my ability, and, you know, work on my craft the same way that you know, a sculptor or an artisan or a carpenter or, you know, any great artist would. Yeah.
There is a kind of duality always recurring in your music, how you explain it. If you had to pick just one word that you would like people to use to describe your last album, which would it be?
That's It's tricky. Good?
It's not enough good.
Yeah.
Posso aiutarlo con un'altra
I can't say
domanda?
great.
Mi aggancio,
Like to ask.
perché mi aggancio a quello che dice lei. Io ho trovato questo disco, e vedendo lui capisco anche forse perché, un disco, come dire, di pace, molto rilassante, molto tranquillo, molto so dove sono, è dovuto anche alla paternità, è dovuto a momenti della sua vita. Cos'è dovuta questa cosa?
Okay.
O se è vera magari, questa è la mia
He
impressione.
said that looking at you now and listening to your album, I found the album more really relaxing, something that explained that you are exactly where you are. Now you know where you are, you know who you are now, so really pacific in some way. Maybe it's due to your paternity, your son, or I don't know what.
Yeah.
And maybe something that could add the things that she would like to say. So
I
the
think-
work could be relaxing,
Okay.
could be
Main
proud of you
characteristic
now.
Yeah.
that you like people to get into your album.
Yeah.
I mean, really, that you really
Yeah.
want people.
I think I'm just a good actor, but pretending. No, but it's true.
Your second work.
Yeah, it's true, and I think it comes back to what I first said. I feel like I finally was able to have the same team around me, you know, and it felt like even the Matafix albums, they just felt all uphill. You know, I was trying to keep the band together, I was trying to get everyone pointing in the same direction, and sometimes it was so much of a struggle, you know, whereas this time I feel like, you know, yeah, I think, you know, relaxing, I think grounded, you know, is another word I would use. Eclectic, you know, lots of different genres within there. But yeah, I'm really pleased to hear you guys say that it does sound like one piece of work, because that's the first thing I wrote down on the wish list.
So,
Yeah, before writing the album was one solid, you know, group of songs, you know, that you can listen to from start to finish.
so it could be solid maybe in some
Solid.
way.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
it is really.
Grazie, thank you. Cool.
Ditemi voi se avete altre domande o altre curiosità. Io
Yeah, I wanted to know if you're inclined to write more about social issues and things that affected you probably in the past,
Yeah.
or maybe you hear other people, you know, struggling with their lives in this day and age.
Yeah, for sure. I'd love to. With Matafix, I felt like we had a political responsibility sometimes, and at the time, we had just gone to war in the Middle East. I felt very, very negatively, and at the time we were signing record deals and publishing deals, and our tax money was being used to move a conflict forward that I felt we had no place in, and I was very, very upset about that. So a lot of the songs on the Matafix first album were about that, you know, Clear and Present Danger, The Forgotten were about that situation. I went through some personal heartbreak on the solo albums, and therefore it's not that I didn't care about world issues anymore, it's just maybe I was so wrapped up in my own thing. But for the next album, with the songwriting, it really is a priority for me to have more social issues, and more like, I was listening to Billy Joel the other day, and some of the ways that he, you know, scenes from an Italian restaurant or whatever it is, the way that he manages to mix the philosophy with the everyday issues, the life in New York City, the conversations between friends. That's something that I aspire to do. But on this album, on Electric Soul, there's a song called Too Much to Lose, which is about my relationship with home and the Caribbean, and how the Caribbean, for me, has changed over the years, and some of the issues and the difficulties that the Caribbean faces. And I think one of the advantages that I've had, as you said before, growing up in the two societies, is that I understand a lot of the struggles that developing countries face. I understand how seemingly small decisions in Western governments affect developing nations and communities very, very strongly. And so, yeah, whenever I discuss issues, if it's the World Cup in Brazil or how I feel about it, I'm always approaching it from my Caribbean perspective on it.
Can you say something about the words a song will write you, you don't write it?
Yeah.
What does it mean?
Yeah. This song is a perfect example. I was in LA, and my voice wasn't feeling good. I was writing with all these top songwriters, Grammy Award nominated songwriters, for weeks and weeks, and I was getting nowhere. Very low confidence, I felt very exposed as a singer, and then I went to Jamie Hartman, who's a British songwriter living in LA, and he said, well, just come over for a few hours and we'll jam, forget about all that stuff. And 2 hours later, when the beat drops out, it was finished, the writing was completely finished. And it's so strange because during the process I realised that I was just a small part of that song coming to life. I just felt like I was the same as the piano or the guitar that we were using at the time. And that was it. The times that I've written the hits, whether it was Big City Life or whatever, they were effortless moments. But you realise they come from months and months and months of and a lifetime of hard work and experience. And you guys know the same with writing. You know what I mean? It can be uphill, 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 and then all of a sudden, the flow of ideas come. So that's how I feel about songwriting. And in that way, it can be very, very frustrating waiting for that moment of inspiration. But luckily in my career, it's always touch wood. It's always come at some point.
Thank you.
Choosing this song as a first single was only a strategic media plan choice, or it was also a support to the redefinition of your new image or new way of music?
Well, I was comfortable with any song on the album being a single because I loved it, and I wrote so many songs and threw so many away and came back to this group of songs. So it could have been anyone. But I have a great team at the label, my label in Berlin, Universal, and I listened to them. They were the ones that encouraged me to become a solo artist, and I'm not one of those artists that doesn't need A&R, whatever, I'll do it on my own. I've benefited in my career from good advice from good music people who've been doing it a long time. So I definitely take that on board. And I knew at the time, it's the first hit that I've written where when I was writing it, I was like, this is a hit. Just concentrate, don't let the moment go, turn the phone off, because it had that feeling, it had that magic to it. And also, it's maybe the first up-tempo song that I've written. Matafix was so slow, my last album was very, very slow, too chilled out, and this is the first time that I've written an up-tempo, so I was like, okay, I think it can work.
Thank you.
So is there a reason why you're so successful in Germany?
I think it's a little bit of a mystery, and there's always... it's weird. Yeah, it's slightly weird because, for example, the first single from my last album there was the biggest British #1 single in Germany for 30 years, and it didn't do hardly anything in the UK.
You mean New Age?
New Age, yeah. And the thing is that, okay, there's political reasons, there might be some musical taste things, but I feel like with Germany, I can take an acoustic guitar, get in the back of a van with a good song and a good attitude, and I can tour Germany and it will do okay. You know what I mean? It will be well received. Whereas in the UK, I feel a little bit more like there's all these little boxes you have to tick, and there's all these little style things you have to do, and the places you have to be seen, And I'm not criticising it, it's just that's part of something where I've never felt at home in the British industry, because I feel like there's a conversation going on that I haven't been a part of. It's also a testament to the system in Germany. They don't have national radio there, so you have to go to all these towns and play, and they have a very specific regional culture. Bavaria is very, very different from the north of Germany, etc., etc. And I've always appreciated that. And also, we've put in the hard work. We recognise that Germany was such a big market, bigger than the UK now.